The Game Awards are just around the corner, and we've got 6 wildly different games competing for Game of the Year. In this video, I'll touch on each game's strengths, roast their weaknesses, and ultimately predict who I think will take the crown. Now, before someone has a fucking meltdown in the comments, remember, TGA's Game of the Year is decided by fat cat aristocrats, with fans acting more like a final tiebreaker. In other words, it's less about your whims and wishes. I mean, that's what the Players' Voice Award is for, and rather it's more focused on which game has the most universal acclaim, cultural impact, innovation, and that special wow factor. Let's dive in. Donkey Kong Bananza. Nintendo's big, bold 3D platformer for the Switch 2 swung into the scene and damn near took over. This game is like guerrilla warfare meets home improvement, because DK doesn't just platform, he punches holes through landscapes like he's the Kool-Aid man on some Coke-fueled, banana-flavored bender. This game is the full package. Nostalgia play? Check. Modern game design and polish? Check. Critically beloved? Absolutely yes. Donkey Kong's first 3D outing since the N64 days landed a 90 Metacritic, give or take a point, making it one of the highest rated Nintendo titles of the year. In fact, early reports showed all Bananza critic reviews were positive, not a mixed or negative score in sight. Hey, that's rarer than finding a blue shell in first place. The level variety is also bananas. 1 minute you're in a lush jungle, the next in a mine, then on a beach. It's like a DK's world tour of things he can break. The Odyssey team at Nintendo EPD Tokyo developed this, and it shows. Bananza is bursting with imaginative level design and that trademark Nintendo charm. Sure, few gremlins on the forums called it a mindless collectathon, but most players and reviewers found it charming, incredibly fun, and mechanically deep. A game that rewards curiosity and leaves that huge goofy grin on your face. And let's not overlook how Bananza has been a commercial hit too. It had Switch 2 consoles flying off shelves and quickly became a party favorite for families and hardcore fans alike. Of course, even this gorilla's got some fleas. According to critics, the collectible system has a lot to be desired. There are bananas, banana chips, gold coins, fossils, so many currencies that even an accountant would throw up their hands. Keeping track of all of this had me feeling like I needed an MBA in monkeynomics. Also, in late game, the performance can drop harder than DK slipping on a banana peel. All that glorious destruction sometimes makes the frame rate chug, especially when the screen is exploding with more particles than a Michael Bay film. But hey, when you're having this much fun tearing the world apart, you might not even care if things get a little choppy. Donkey Kong Bananza is an absolute blast. Not perfect, but so joyous you can't argue with how much pure fun it is. It's the family-friendly choice among these nominees, though friendly family might be debatable when you've got DK pounding the living shit out of every Goomba in his way. If games were bananas, Bananza would be the overripe one that's a bit mushy in spots, but still damn delicious in a banana bread. Next up, Hollow Knight Silksong, a sequel so long awaited that it became a gaming community meme. This fucking game was so anticipated that its release date literally broke digital storefronts. If this game doesn't win Game of the Year, I am absolutely confident it will clinch the Players' Voice Award. Team Cherry's sequel had nearly mythic expectations after the original Hollow Knight became an indie legend, and somehow Silksong lived up to the hype. Critics and fans welcomed Hornet's new adventure with open arms and rave reviews. On Metacritic, Silksong is sitting in the 90 to 94 range depending on the platform. Basically, universal acclaim across the board. Oh, and let's not forget it's selling 5 million copies in just 3 days. It's one of those games that remind us why we love this medium. Stunning hand-drawn art, a haunting, playful soundtrack, tight Metrovania gameplay, and lore for days. Silksong is tougher and sharper than a nail to the face, which, coincidentally, is what you'll be fighting with. The game's beautiful hand-drawn world lures you with its elegance and then proceeds to stab you repeatedly if you dare to complain. It's a perfect summary of one more run compulsion. The artistry and level design are top-notch. Every area in the Kingdom of Farloom is an eerie work of art, from bioluminescent caverns to bone-littered cities. And the combat? Mwah! Hornet is aerobatic and lightning fast, making the original Hollow Knight feel like it was on training wheels. Every new boss fight is a glorious dance of death, set to an even more haunting score than last time. Let's not entirely sing its silken praises. Silksong can be considered by critics as too difficult. Too difficult? Hell, that's why they're critics, not players. The map and level design was also labeled as a bit chaotic, leaving you lost more than a tourist without Google Maps. And while the story is intriguing, it's told in that typical vague Souls-like style. You might finish the game without fully understanding what the fuck just happened in Hornet's journey, but you'll have feelings about it. That's for sure. Hollow Knight Silksong is a stunning, merciless Metroidvania that absolutely lives up to its lineage. Just be ready to get good or quit, because the game certainly doesn't care about your feelings. And hey, if that's your kink, no judgment. We're all a little hollow inside. In the arena of Game of the Year contenders, Silksong is the scrappy little assassin, elegant, deadly, and absolutely uncompromising. Death Stranding 2. Opinions on this game range from mind-blowing cinematic genius to what the fuck is this delivery sim? It's the classic Kojima divisiveness. Death Stranding 2 is more Metal Gear Solid than ever, for better or for worse, with stealth and weird tech and convoluted plot oozing out of its pores. Critically, DS2 performed notably better than its predecessor, landing around an 89 to 90 average score. Visually and atmospherically, DS2 is off the charts. The landscapes are gorgeous in a bleak, end-of-the-world kind of way, with desolate beaches, foggy forests, ruined cities, you name it. The game's world is so tactile you can almost feel the mud squishing in Norman Reedus's boots. The new ghost mechs and tar-drenched creatures add a dose of action to the formula, spicing up the walking sim with some freaky combat set pieces. And let's not forget the online community aspect. Building bridges and highways with other players still brings a unique sense of camaraderie. It's like a surreal post-apocalyptic habitat for humanity. The tone is also all over the place in the best way. Hyper-serious Kojima cutscenes about life and death one moment, and then slapstick comedy the next. It's charmingly bizarre and self-aware, which at least keeps you entertained between all the what the fuck is even happening plot moments. Still, Death Stranding 2 is not going to convert the haters. If you thought the first game was as exciting as watching paint dry, the sequel might feel like watching tar dry. Sure, Kojima added more action, but at its core, you're still delivering packages, balancing weight, and doing a lot of walking. They have streamlined some of the rough edges, perhaps sanding down the friction a tad too much. That means traversal is a bit easier, which is good for your sanity, but maybe bad for the thrill. Also, for all the crazy gadgets Sam gets, like hoverboards, exoskeletons, there's not a lot of reason to use the most creative tools. You often get by with basic strategies, which is a bummer when you've got a whole sci-fi Swiss Army knife at your disposal. And the combat, still kinda simplistic. Don't expect a full-on Metal Gear stealth arsenal. Then there's the batshit insane story. We can't even call it a weakness because some people love Kojima's wild storytelling, but let's be real. By the end, you might be scratching your head so hard you draw blood. In summary, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach is a bold, indulgent sequel that doubles down on everything. It builds on the foundations of the original and adds new layers, delivering a game that's part walking simulator, part action, part philosophical art film. For fans of the first, it's a brilliantly bizarre continuation of the journey. For others, it might still be the cure for insomnia, but the impact and artistry here are hard to ignore. In our Game of the Year race, DS2 is the avant-garde nominee. Love it or hate it, you gotta respect Kojima for once again doing whatever the fuck he wants. Convention be damned. Finally, we arrive at the dark horse, or should I say, dark painting, of this year's nominees. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 came out of nowhere, an indie JRPG from a small French studio, Sandfall Interactive, that decided to take on the RPG giants and ended up mopping the floor with them. How the hell did a team of around 30 people create a game that now has a record-breaking 12 Game Award nominees? That's the most ever. This game essentially gave a polite middle finger to the big publishers by succeeding on their own terms. The game sold 1 million copies in its first 3 days, and by October 2025, it had over 5 million copies sold worldwide. An insane figure for a brand new IP from a small studio. Expedition 33's story is often described as emotionally devastating and brilliantly written. It's a tale about defying fate, coping with loss, and a whole bunch of mind-bending twists. This game will sucker punch your heart, then pick you up and do it all again for good measure. The combat system is also outstanding. It's turn-based with a twist. They integrate real-time elements like timed button presses and aiming into the turn-based framework. So it feels classic yet modern, and it looks spectacular. Flashy particle effects, smooth animations, and UI design that's stylish without being confused. Then there's the art direction and music. Clair Obscur is visually stunning. The game world is like a macabre painting. Twisted Belle Epoque architecture, eerie monoliths, and beautiful yet terrifying creature designs. The music has been universally praised, and it even hit #1 on some Billboard classical charts. And we can't ignore the accolades. It's up for everything. Game of the Year, Best Narrative, Best Art, Best Score, Best Indie, you name it. Fuck, if we want to talk weaknesses, this one is tough. Some critics found it a bit overwhelming. I know, the fucking critics. Though honestly, sounds like a skill issue, as the kids would say. Also, the story, as great as it is, some critiques said that it was a little bit too heavy. And sure, being a first-time effort from a new studio, there are tiny rough edges, maybe a couple of minor bugs, maybe 1 or 2 side quests that feel fetchy. I mean, fuck. We're really grasping at straws here. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is the ultimate underdog success story of 2025. This game has got incredible notoriety for a company this small, with even the president of France apparently congratulating the devs at one point. That's how you know you've made it big. Expedition 33 is simply that exceptional. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. KCD 2 is the only nominee where dungeons but no dragons is a selling point. This game is medieval hardcore, a realistic open world RPG that says, fuck fantasy, history is brutal enough. It drops you into a war-torn Bohemia with nothing but your wits, a sword, and an overbearing nobleman bossing you around. It's the kind of game where you'll spend an hour reading codex entries about 1403 Czech society and then get kicked in the balls by a bandit because he's jealous you can even learn how to read. Its strengths come from its depth and realism. KCD 2 doesn't just shirk complexity, it gleefully piles on it. You got swordplay that tracks the angle of your swings, armor that protects different body parts, a need to sleep and bathe. Hey, unless you like being filthy, the result is an immensely immersive experience. The world feels alive, villages operate on schedules, every NPC has a name and a job, and nearly every noble or knight is a real historical figure from Bohemia. The developers basically said, why make up lore when history is one big bloody soap opera? There's political intrigue, betrayals, battles, Game of Thrones level drama, minus the dragons. The writing is dark mixed with just enough humor. The NPCs' banter and swearing are delightfully crude. Sure, they curse a lot, maybe too much, but shit, so do I. This sequel is huge. It boasts a script of 2.2 million words and dozens upon dozens of quests. If you want a bang for your buck, KCD 2 will give you hundreds of hours of medieval adventuring. Sword fighting, archery, hunting, brewing potions, picking locks, and even learning to play dice. It's all there. You can approach problems in multiple ways, aligning with different factions, being a noble knight or an absolute bastard. However, with all that depth, comes at a cost. According to critics, KCD 2 sometimes feels like a medieval chore simulator, and you are the peasant. You have to micromanage everything, and it's a lot. And for some critics, it crosses from immersive into insufferable. And while the story is rich, the game assumes you remember everything from the first one. Finally, in a true open world fashion, there are some bugs and janks. NPCs might glitch out, horses might fly, and history doesn't account for that one. For hardcore RPG fans who want a deep dive into medieval life, where every mechanic from combat to cooking has layers, this could be your game of the year. It's truly like living in 1403 Bohemia, complete with the smell of horse shit and the fear of the plague. In our Game of the Year lineup, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is the hardcore contender, a brilliant, occasionally bullheaded game that will either consume your life or make you quit. Now let's heat things up in the underworld with Hades 2. the sequel to 2020 smash hit roguelike. Hades 2 had huge shoes to fill. After all, the first Hades won more awards than Zeus had illegitimate children. So does Hades 2 live up to the hype? Hell yes, it does. Supergiant Games delivered a sequel that is both familiar and fresh in all the right ways. The combat that we all loved is back, and somehow even better. It's impeccably tight and smoother than Athena's ass. There are new weapons, new moves, and a whole new pantheon of gods and goddesses to help you out. The trademark mix of heart-pumping action and meaningful story progression is intact. Every run, whether you succeed or die, and you will die a lot, you get more story bits, more banter with the Olympians. The writing and voice acting are again top tier. The impeccable combat and flawless characterization across a huge roster makes Hades 2 a sequel that surpasses even its excellent predecessor. The art style is the same gorgeous hand-drawn flair with even more variety in environments. And the music, Darren Korb cranked up the metal this time, adding some darker industrial tones. Most importantly, Hades 2 retains that just one more run magic. Runs are a bit longer now, but the pacing is spot on, and it never feels like a slog. It's challenging, but in that encouraging way where each death is a lesson and you're itching to try again immediately. Look, finding weaknesses in Hades 2 is like finding a needle in a needle stack, but fine, let's nitpick a bit. With so many new gods, boons, and upgrade systems, critics say it can be overwhelming at first. Also, some critics argue Hades 2 plays a bit safe in structure. It's still a run-based, isometric action game with rooms and boss fights at the end of each area. The formula hasn't radically changed. Not that we wanted it to. If you were hoping Hades 2 would reinvent the wheel, it doesn't. It just polishes that wheel to a diamond. Lastly, and this is really scraping the bottom of the barrel, the difficulty RNG can still occasionally smack you. Sometimes the boons you get just don't synergize and the run feels doomed by bad luck. But honestly, even a bad run in Hades 2 is fun, so cry me a river. Hades 2 is a fiery triumph of a sequel. It had astronomical high expectations and met them. It's the full package. Intense action, great story, endless replayability, and more hot mythological folks to romance or fight, or both. If the first Hades was king of the roguelikes, Hades 2 is the new emperor, and long may it reign. In this Game of the Year race, Hades 2 is a fierce contender. It's polished to hell, pun intended, and wildly entertaining. And now my prediction for the Game of the Year goes to, drumroll please, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Hey, all these nominees are fantastic in their own ways. It's like comparing apples to oranges to bananas to grenades. Each game scratches a different itch. Honestly, any of them could snag the award, and I wouldn't even be too mad. But Clair Obscur Expedition 33 has that special narrative of an industry-defining moment. It's not just an excellent game, it's a bit of a revolution. It united both fans and critics in a way we rarely see. It led the nominations with a dirty dozen nods, and for good reason. Sometimes Game of the Year isn't just about the highest review score, it's about the impact. And Expedition 33 left a fucking crater. It gave us an amazing experience and sent a message that perhaps will influence how games are made going forward. So yeah, my money's on the French dark fantasy with the weird name. It's the Game of the Year, mon ami. This year has been one for the history books in gaming. We've had critical darlings from solo devs and massive sequels from industry legends, all competing for our attention. And the results is a lineup of games as varied as it is stellar. Frankly, choosing Game of the Year was like choosing a favorite child. Impossible, and you feel guilty no matter what. And regardless who takes home the ultimate Game of the Year trophy, the real winners this year are us, the players. We got to enjoy an embarrassment of riches, games that made us feel every emotion under the sun. So, what do you think will be Game of the Year? Let me know in the comments, and hey, if you like the video, why not subscribe?